What is up, my friends, and welcome to another special show. On this segment today, what we're going to talk about is really the conspiracy or the theory that we are globally, at least in the G6, G20 countries, moving towards a digital currency. The writing and the proof is all over the place, and I would like to take a second in this video, take a couple minutes actually, and connect the dots for you if you haven't been paying attention. Now, a lot of this has been brought up in previous videos. If you have not seen those videos, then you have no clue what's going on. This video will be very informative for you. This conversation and this dialogue and this further, compounding the breadcrumbs for you at the macro level comes just hours after the G20 is officially over with, and all the data now is getting pushed out onto social media. The videos are getting pushed out, the talking points are getting pushed out. So what they're talking about is, at least we have the G6, which is the 6 primary countries, and the G20, which are the 20 primary countries that meet. They just met in Argentina. They want a taxation system for cross-border electronic payment services. Now, what's interesting to me is that this has never happened before. We have remittance systems already. We have Western Union, we have MoneyGram, we have other ways of doing it. We have the rise of applications like PayPal and Square and Venmo and different things like that. How come this is just now being talked about? Well, it's because now there's this big push for cryptocurrency. But did this just occur? 2018 has been the worst year for cryptocurrency price action. We've seen the worst November since 2011. Where's this newfound interest all of a sudden? Wouldn't 2017 have been a better year to start talking about these things? Well, we did hear some talk through 2017, actually quite a bit. But 2018 really seems to be the year that the SEC is moving in, the United States is moving in on regulation, and now there's this serious talk about how do we tax this globally. I just think that even just taking that piece is fairly interesting because, PayPal does massive amounts of business. Square Up does massive amounts of business. Venmo, massive amounts of business. Western Union, MoneyGram. There was digital currencies that existed in the early 2000s that were shut down, and a lot of people think they were shut down with the help of Western Union and MoneyGram because they had almost a cartel-like grasp on the entire market of sending money internationally for people who didn't have bank accounts. And even right now, we have roughly 2 billion people on the planet who don't have a bank account. I think this is very interesting coming out, and this is just 2 weeks after we have the head of the IMF addressing an audience in Singapore for fintech, which fintech has a big piece in all of this digital currency game. But at this fintech event, she brought up a whole storyline of why there needs to be an international digital currency, which she's not the first one to talk about this. If you saw on the channel recently, I did the piece on the 1988 Economist article that talks about the need for a digital currency, and it would be released in 2018, and it was going to help with global taxation and also just moving internationally with money. Now, funny enough, here we are in 2018, and it is actually getting rolled out. Now, Bitcoin wasn't created in 2018. It's 10 years old now. I would have thought many years before now there would have been interest. 2015 was an amazing year. 2013, 2017 was an amazing year. But no, we see it all happening in 2018. So was this 1988 article a prediction or a future telling of what was to come and writing it on the wall, warning us of what they're doing? And depending on how far you want to go and how fringe you want to get, we have George Soros that has talked on TV talking about this new world order, right? So the new world order conspiracy theory. And part of that is a one world currency, is it not? Well, you can't have a one world paper currency because it would be incredibly hard to keep track of. You would have a one world digital currency. Interestingly enough, too, digital currency is all digital, which makes it much easier to control versus a paper or fiat currency. For as many problems that we have with fiat and all the reasons why I don't like it, having a physical, tangible currency is more sovereign than having a digital currency, okay? But it seems like we are all falling head over heels for this digital currency thing, forgetting that in a lot of ways it is taking away our sovereignty. Sticking to something like gold and silver as a means of purchasing is a lot more safer, I think, for the consumer than a digital currency, as much as I love Bitcoin and as much as I love cryptocurrencies. Okay, the second thing she discussed, evaluate the role for central banks in this new financial landscape, especially in providing digital currency. She was openly talking about central banks creating an international digital currency. So here we are in 2018, now that 1988 Economist article is proven right. It is proven 100% true right now. Now, interestingly enough, with digital currency, there is anonymity until you figure out the address and who that belongs to. Once I know who owns what address, what Bitcoin address or Ethereum address, the transactions are all on the ledger. It's actually more transparent and easier to track you. From a taxes standpoint, from a money laundering standpoint, it is actually the perfect vehicle, the perfect mechanism to be able to track all financial activity cross borders. Here we have a Coinbase hit piece going all the way back to 2015, accusing Coinbase of tracking its users and notifying different authority and regulatory agencies of these transactions and who owns the data. Now, Coinbase right now, even though nobody really talks about it, is they are one of the largest exchanges, one of the largest exit exchanges or means of people to bring in cash into crypto in the United States. Please don't think that they keep your information private. Please don't think that your data is not being shared with the NSA and other three-letter agencies in the United States, because it 100% is. It's being forwarded to the IRS, and all of that is being matched. So your Bitcoin addresses and your crypto addresses are being matched up to you and your different data points. And what that's going to be used for is to come after you and to audit you from a IRS standpoint and to further track your activities. Now, this piece back in 2015 was based around a subreddit that blew up, and this has happened a few different times. I believe there was one in 2017 as well, in the middle of the year, that I remember, somebody once again bringing up the topic that Coinbase is tracking and submitting your information to different governing agencies in the United States. I 100% believe this. Now we've got enough of that going on. What else do we have? What other indicators, what other writing on the wall do we have? Well, we have the CME, the CBOE came in December of 2017 to launch the futures contracts. Bitcoin immediately from that point stopped its parabolic growth curve and completely started taking a shit. 2017 has been one of the worst years on record. It's lost over 85% of its value from all-time high prices. Now, while that's going on, we have the founder, or the CEO rather, of ICE, the International Continental Exchange, creating BACKT, B-A-K-K-T, which it was supposed to launch in December. It will now launch January 24th, 2019, and this will be the first of many custodian-based investment, I guess you could say, institutional investment tools. We have Fidelity, which manages how many trillions of dollars coming into the crypto space. We have many situations like this going on. Goldman Sachs is jockeying for positions. Bank of America is jockeying for positions. JP Morgan, all of them want in. Why all of a sudden? Well, this isn't something that started just yesterday. Let's now look at who holds the most patents on blockchain technology. What we see is Bank of America is at the top. JP Morgan has also picked up quite a bit. This article is a little bit older. I couldn't find anything that was in the last 30, 60 days. This is back from July. These numbers have gone up dramatically. The holdings now are upwards of 60 and 80 are the highest patent filings that are now held. We have MasterCard recently filed a patent for fraction reserve Bitcoin. This is effectively now going to take and stretch the original 21 million circulating supply of Bitcoin and make it as much as they want. Please understand that's what fraction reserve means. It's the same thing they do with fiat. It's some of the reasons why we are in the global economic crisis that we're in right now. Here's a quick look, and like I said, this isn't completely up to date, but you would not be seeing all the banks, the central banks, the Fed, the IMF, the G20, you would not be seeing all of them talking about a global digital currency if they weren't already planning on doing it. Some actually say that they've already got all of this figured out, ready to rock and roll out in place. And what they're going to do is ditch the fiat, and they're going to swap over basically overnight, but it'd probably take a couple days, to a digital currency, and they're going to just move everybody over onto that, and they're going to use it as a means to kind of wash a lot of the debt that they've got on the books in all the top countries, the G20 countries. And at the same time, they're going to use it as a means to, unfortunately, further track people's financial activity, but also bridge the gaps between international taxation. They're going to completely revamp how trading tariffs work and how international taxation works. So you want to believe in that? Again, it depends on how far out into conspiracy land you want to go, but just understand that these are things that are all being openly now talked about. Whereas in 2017, when I got into cryptocurrency, all of this was so far out there as conspiracy theory. When I talked about this, I'd get laughed at, and there would be like 3 people who agreed and 35 who hated me and said I was a complete idiot. Well, now here we are, a year and a half later, it's now coming true. So this is the macro that I want to share with you so that you can start to piece together this for yourself. I personally, with all of this new information I've found over the last 30, 60 days, I don't know what I feel is going to be the future of digital currencies. But I do know that, first off, they will keep it around if they can make money. So the whole Bitcoin going to zero thing, it is impossible. I completely feel. Next is I also, if we just look at the history of when they roll out institutional tools, we have ETFs rolling out for gold in March 2003, and what that did for the price over the following, I believe it was a 10-year parabolic growth curve from there, upwards of 470% growth over those next years. We look at IPOs, and when those roll out in the stock market, we look at any kind of institutional investment tool that they roll out. They want to make money. They want to make big money. And you realize that if they got in and sunk their teeth in, which a lot of people think they are, that this is a secondary bear market, and this is where the institutions are now accumulating sub $4,000 on Bitcoin, then they are now priming themselves to be a custodian while they're running shorts on the futures markets. They're playing the perfect hedge here, essentially, and they're further accumulating more and more cheap Bitcoin. So I think that there is at least one more big bull run in the books, in the cards, because they'll want that. One big bull run and they could completely wipe out all debt that they have. If they were to accumulate enough, and they were to pump this, to let it pump up to 100,000, 200,000, why not? It doesn't have to be so manipulated like gold and silver. Gold and silver have real world ramifications, real world use case. Proof of work is an amazing concept, but that doesn't really equate into the real world outside of the cost of mining it. So with gold, we have the cost of mining gold, but gold is used in space travel, gold is used in jewelry, gold is used in electronics, silver, same thing. A lot of commodities work like that. A lot of precious metals work like that. With Bitcoin, I feel like they could let it go nuts, 100,000, 200,000, 500,000. And in that price move just there, they would make so much money that it would wipe out their entire debt sheets. We've seen them do this in the past with other institutional investment offerings. So anyways, now let's wrap up by me talking about what I think is going to happen in the space, what's going to really be this predominant global cryptocurrency, and some of the things there. First off, I don't think that they're going to run with Bitcoin as this global currency. I think they're going to leave Bitcoin as one that they can just accumulate a massive amount of Bitcoin and continue to run hedges against that like they do with gold and silver. I'm talking JP Morgan, Bank of America, and all the big players. I think Ripple has a huge chance of becoming this international cryptocurrency because they're so in deep with Swift players. I believe over 100 Swift partners they are now working with. So I think Ripple has the strongest chance of becoming that international cryptocurrency that's used by all the countries. But I also think that they're going to roll out and continue to roll out these stable coins that are backed by fiats. And maybe that will be a way for them to get away from the fiat, and then the stable coin kind of takes over as that and allows them to get away from actually printing and the resources and everything that's required there. But just yesterday, we had news that there's going to be 3 or 4 new stable coins released into the ecosystem. So one by the Japanese yen, one by the US US dollar, Australian dollar, and I believe another one by the Chinese yuan. We've got some stablecoin action happening, and I think that's going to continue to be popular. Then I still think that there's going to be this international cryptocurrency that comes out. Now, it could be Ripple, or it could be something completely new that they generate. I do see a lot of crypto projects. I will say this too. I do see a lot of crypto projects falling away and completely dying off. And it's going to be a multi-effort approach from the SEC that's going to try and go after a lot of these as securities and pin them on that. Now, that's inside the US and outside the US, because I believe that the SEC has rule in other countries and allies, and they can use that as pressure to get what they want. And this has already partially started to come true with what just happened in Canada. The global chief financial officer, or CFO, was just arrested in Vancouver at the request of U.S. authorities. This is HUAWEI. I believe they're a cell phone company or a tech company, but this is the first instance that we have the U.S. asking another country to do something on its behalf and them following suit from a digital standpoint. We've seen this throughout history. This happens time and time again. So this is nothing new in general, but I think that the SEC and these new institutional governing bodies are going to really start to push their regulation and legislation. Okay, so that's my thoughts on that. I hope that this has helped you see some of the macro that's going on and further help you make your plan. That's what is most important for me, is that people really wake up to what could happen. We're not denying anything. We're staying open to it go this way, it go that way, great. And ultimately we have a plan, and regardless of what goes on in the world outside of us and around us, our plan is solid and it's good enough to help ourselves and our families not only survive but thrive through these things that are going to come and these events that are going to happen. I think that in these events we are going to see some of the biggest shakeup of money and some of the biggest reallocation of wealth. I know that's said quite often, but I believe that it is just started over this last couple years, and it is going to escalate dramatically as this goes on. You can position yourself properly by just planning, by just thinking, by not being too stuck to your bias or your opinions or your worldviews, and staying open to being right and being wrong, and adopting and adapting new things as new truths are presented to you. That's all I got for you, my friends. Thank you so much for tuning in. All the relevant links are shared underneath this video. All the ways that you can support this channel also too are shared underneath this video. It means so much to us, and that little bit goes a long way, my friends. The Patreon, the Teespring campaigns, all of that is underneath the video. Like the video if you also want to support us but don't maybe have any money or don't have anything to spend right now. It is the holiday season, I completely understand. Comment if you want to interact with us. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what I just talked about, what your thoughts on this whole digital currency game is, and this whole international digital currency game. And then if this is the first time to the channel, take a second, subscribe, hit the bell notification if you like what we're doing here, and you will be able to stay up to date with us moving forward with all the content that we upload on the channel. Thanks so much. Okay, bye.